Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to totally rethink how we eat.
Haha, yeah.
Yeah,
Always up for good food challenge, right?
absolutely. So today we're diving into this. Well, it's a super interesting paper.
Oh, yeah, I saw this one. It's a perspective piece, right? From those experts in the field.
Exactly. And it's all about meal timing, and you know how it affects our health.
I mean, we all know food is important. But this is saying, like, when we eat matters just as much as what we eat.
Totally. And they're making a pretty bold statement saying that our good old 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
The classic, yeah.
might actually not be the best for us.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes you think, like, when you look at it from, say, an evolutionary perspective, it's kind of a weird pattern, right?
So.
Well, think about most animals in the wild. I mean, they're not exactly sitting down for their scheduled 3 squares a day.
Right. It's not like a lion's taking a lunch break.
Exactly. It's more like, feast or famine. They eat when they can, and then they might go for long periods without food.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But we're not exactly hunting for a dinner anymore.
True. But even with all our modern conveniences, our bodies are still basically running on that same ancient hardware.
So we're stuck in a time warp,
Yeah,
still waiting for those periods of scarcity.
kind of, yeah. And because of that, we might be missing out on some serious benefits that kick in when we do fast, even for short periods.
Like what kinds of benefits?
Well, for one, when we fast, our bodies shift from burning glucose to burning fat, and it produces these things called ketones.
Ketones, remind me what those are again?
So ketones are these molecules your liver makes when glucose is running low. And get this, they can be a super efficient fuel for your brain.
Whoa, so not snacking could actually give our brains a boost.
It's possible, yeah. Some studies even think they could help protect us from those, neurodegenerative diseases later in life.
Wow, that's incredible. Anything else?
Oh, there's more. Fasting also triggers this thing called the cellular stress response.
Cellular stress. Okay, that doesn't sound so good, to be honest.
I know, right? But it's actually a good thing. Think of it like a workout, but for your cells.
So a little bit of stress makes them stronger.
Exactly. Fasting kind of forces your cells to become more resilient and resistant to damage.
Interesting. So it's like building a stronger foundation at the tiniest level.
Totally. And then there's this other fascinating process called autophagy.
Autophagy. Okay, now that just sounds intimidating.
It's a big word, but it's basically your body's built-in cleanup crew.
Oh, okay. Like taking out the trash.
Yes. When you fast, your cells start getting rid of all the damaged parts and junk they've accumulated. It's like a spring cleaning for your body.
Wow, that's amazing. Like a total system reboot.
And you know how chronic inflammation is linked to almost every chronic disease we know of?
Right. It's that sneaky troublemaker in the background.
Well, fasting has actually been shown to reduce inflammation, potentially slowing down a whole bunch of diseases.
So we're talking boosting brain power, stronger cells, and less inflammation, all just by changing when we eat.
Pretty much, yeah. And the research gets even wilder. Some studies are even looking at how fasting could potentially impact cancer.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that not eating could help fight cancer?
I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, that's what some of this research is suggesting.
But how does that even work?
Well, cancer cells, they're basically sugar addicts. They need glucose to grow. And by fasting, we essentially cut off their main fuel supply.
Oh, wow. So by switching over to burning fat, we're basically starving those cancer cells.
You got it.
Yeah.
And there are scientists out there who are actually looking into using fasting alongside more traditional cancer treatments.
That's pretty amazing, honestly. But let's be real for a second. Changing our eating habits so drastically, that can be pretty overwhelming.
It definitely can be. But the cool thing about intermittent fasting is that there are a ton of different approaches. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Yeah. So where do we even begin?
Well, there are a few popular methods out there. So yeah, there are a few popular methods out there. One of the most well-known is alternate day fasting.
Alternate day. That sounds pretty intense.
I know, right? It basically means you switch between days of normal eating and then days where you either fast completely or drastically reduce your calories.
So feast one day, famine the next.
Yeah, pretty much. It can be tough for some people, but others find it easier to manage than restricting calories every single day.
Oh, I see. So it's you can indulge one day knowing you'll be fasting the next.
Yeah, kind of. And on those fasting days, you usually only have around 500 calories or so.
Okay, so it's not total starvation. What about people who, want a more gradual approach?
Well, there's also something called periodic calorie restriction. It's a bit more flexible.
How so?
Well, you're basically reducing your calorie intake for a specific period, maybe a couple of days a week, maybe even longer.
So it's more like a sustained period of controlled eating.
Exactly. And then we have time-restricted feeding, which has become super popular
Oh,
lately.
yeah. That's the when, not the what approach, right?
Yep. You basically confine your eating to a specific time window, usually around 6 to 8 hours.
Like, I could only eat between noon and 6 p.m. each day.
Yeah, something like that.
Hmm.
And it actually lines up pretty well with our natural circadian rhythms, since the longer fasting period happens while we're sleeping.
Makes sense. So with all these different methods, I mean, is there one that's like the best or most effective?
Honestly,
Yeah.
there's no magic bullet, unfortunately. The best way really depends on the person, their lifestyle, their goals.
So it's all about finding what works best for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it might take some experimenting.
Mm.
Listen to your body, see how you feel. The key is to find something you can stick with long term.
Yeah, because even if the science is amazing, if it's not sustainable, it's not going to do much good,
Right.
right?
And it's super important to remember that intermittent fasting isn't for everyone. Like, if you have any health conditions, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor first.
Yeah, for sure. Safety first. But overall, it sounds like there's some pretty compelling evidence for the benefits of intermittent fasting.
There definitely is. It's kind of like this ancient practice that's getting validated by modern science. It's pretty cool.
It really is. And in the paper, they also talk about some of the potential societal impacts, which I thought was really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. What did they say?
Well, they kind of paint this picture of a future where intermittent fasting is integrated into healthcare, like doctors would prescribe it alongside other treatments.
Wow, that's a big shift. It'd be like focusing on preventing disease before it even starts, right?
Yeah. It's like prioritizing metabolic health as the foundation for overall well-being.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. If we could optimize our metabolic health, maybe we could actually reduce the number of chronic diseases out there.
It's a pretty powerful idea.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think about all the practical challenges, like how do we change those ingrained cultural norms around eating?
Yeah, and what about the food industry? I mean, they're constantly pushing us to eat more.
It's true. It's like we're swimming against the current.
Definitely. But I think that's why these conversations are so important. We need to arm ourselves with the knowledge and challenge those assumptions about what's healthy.
Couldn't agree more. So it sounds like a big undertaking, but the potential rewards are pretty huge, right?
Definitely. I mean, we're talking about potentially reducing chronic diseases, improving people's lives, maybe even extending lifespans.
Wow. And on a personal level, it's like tapping into this power we didn't even know we had, this ability to adapt and be more resilient.
Exactly. It all starts with understanding the science and being open to new ways of thinking about our health.
Well, I'm certainly feeling inspired to learn more and see how intermittent fasting might fit into my own life.
That's great. And remember, it's a journey. Be patient with yourself, try different things, and find what feels best for you.
Great advice. And as we continue exploring this, there's one more fascinating aspect I want to touch on. We've been talking about intermittent fasting like it's this new trend, but it actually has a rich history and cultural significance.
Oh, that's right. It's been around for centuries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like think about Ramadan, Lent, Yom Kippur. All those traditions have fasting built right in.
Exactly. It's like this ancient practice that's been woven into human history for, well, forever, basically.
And it's interesting because a lot of those traditions focus on the spiritual and mental benefits of fasting, not just the physical stuff.
Right. It's about self-discipline
Yeah.
and mindfulness, like connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Totally. It's like you're creating space to really look inward,
Yeah.
to be more aware of your body and mind.
Kind of like hitting the reset button,
Right.
on all the craziness of modern life.
Yeah, exactly. But as fascinating as all that is, the historical and cultural stuff, our expert authors do say we need more scientific research on all
Yes,
this.
I can see that, yeah. Like, we need solid data, especially from those big randomized controlled trials, to really nail down the benefits and, any potential risks, too.
Absolutely. We got to move past anecdotal evidence and really dig into how fasting affects different people and different health conditions.
Right. It's about safety and making sure we're giving people the right advice, especially if they've already got health issues going on.
Exactly. And it's not just about the numbers, it's also about understanding how people actually experience fasting. Like how do they feel? What challenges do they face? Are there any surprises along the way?
Because it's not always easy, right? To just ignore those cravings and push through the hunger. It takes real dedication.
For sure. That's why having a good support system, whether it's friends, family, or even an online community, can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's like finding your people, the ones who get it and can encourage you along the way.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, intermittent fasting is about empowering people, giving them the knowledge and the tools to take control of their health.
Absolutely. And as we continue to learn more about meal timing and how it affects us, I really hope we start to move away from this culture of, constant eating.
Me too. Imagine a world where we're all a bit more mindful about food, seeing it as not just fuel, but information that shapes our bodies.
That's a great way to put it. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of intermittent fasting, I'll leave you with this thought. What could your life look like if you embrace the power of when you eat? What new possibilities might open up?
That's a great question to ponder. Just keep asking those questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, listen to your body.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay curious.